Hello, and welcome to an extra episode of the British English Podcast. This week I wanted to do 2 episodes because right now people all around the Northern Hemisphere are going back to school. It's a back to school week feel. I can see my niece going into her second year of school, and I'm in contact with a lot of teachers around the world who are also going back to school. And it reminded me of how the new academic year can feel like. It can feel exciting. It can feel exhausting. It can feel anything in between those two, really. And so in this extra episode, I wanted to share a story in hope of reaching out to the heroes amongst you all, the teachers that go back to the classroom to do their job all over again. So I wrote a story inspired by my father's mention of his experience as a teacher. While it is aimed at teachers, I think anyone will be able to appreciate the tale. So if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce you to the protagonist of our story, Margaret. Margaret sighed as she adjusted the frames of her glasses, her eyes scanning the classroom that had been her domain for the last 2 decades. Same 4 walls, the chalkboard replaced by a digital whiteboard, but still essentially the same. The new term was about to start, and though she usually loved the scent of freshly sharpened pencils and new books, this year it all felt a bit stale. I'm getting too old for this, she mumbled, flipping through the pages of the syllabus. She'd done this dance for years, ever since she was a bright-eyed graduate, excited to change the world one student at a time. Now she wondered, did it even make a difference? Each year, new faces with the same youthful enthusiasm, oblivious to the monotony of life that awaited them. On the first day of school, Margaret looked at her new batch of students, their faces glowing with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She couldn't help but think, here we go again. Weeks rolled on, assignments were marked, lectures delivered. It was in late September, around the time the leaves start turning golden, that Emily, a timid girl who always sat in the back row, came up to her after class. Mrs. Margaret, can I talk to you for a moment? Emily's eyes were full of unspoken questions. Of course, Emily. What's on your mind? I wanted to thank you for explaining Shakespeare in a way that makes sense to me. I always thought it was boring, but the way you taught Romeo and Juliet made me realise how relevant it still is, like how sometimes our families can dictate our lives without even knowing it. Margaret paused, her thoughts drifting back to when she first read Shakespeare and how her own teacher had inspired her. Well, I'm glad you found it engaging, Emily. Literature often serves as a mirror to our own lives. As the term progressed, little moments started piling up. Moments that reminded Margaret why she chose this path all those years ago. There was Ahmed, who struggled with English but ended up writing a heartfelt essay about adapting to life in the UK. Or Jenny, who discovered a love for classic literature and decided to shift her career path from engineering to English literature. Each student was a story unfolding, and she was a small but crucial chapter in every one. It was then she realised she wasn't just teaching them about subjects. She was a part of their lives, shaping their future in ways both big and small. Sure, the walls were the same, the syllabus recycled, but each student experienced it as a unique, life-changing moment. Each year was not just another batch, but a new canvas, and she was helping to lay the first strokes of what could become a masterpiece. The end of the term came faster than expected. As she watched her students scribble away on their final exams, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Margaret realised that while she had the same role every year, her students only passed through her classroom once. That once could be the spark that ignited a lifelong passion, the nudge that put them on the path to greatness, or the encouragement that pulled them back from the edge. As the last student handed in their paper and the classroom emptied, leaving her alone with a pile of exams to grade, Margaret smiled to herself. Here we go again, she thought. But this time, the phrase held a different meaning. One filled with anticipation, responsibility, and most importantly, endless possibilities. Upon reflection of that story, I bet you've had your own Margaret moments. Moments that make you realise why you got into your job in the first place, be it teaching or any other career. Now, I'm not assuming that the teachers out there need this story to remind them why they chose the path they took, but I wanted to send it out there to give those who might want it a reminder. We'll be back later this week for a normal episode. Until then, if you are getting back into things, be it work, school, teaching, anything, I wish you a fresh start full of adventure and excitement. You've been listening to me, Charlie Baxter, on the British English Podcast. See you soon.